Where we wait for him to tell us we're on everywhere.
It's good you've got him in the background.
Well, yeah, for this especially. It does take a second, though. If for some reason you are watching, hi, it's Marnie Batista and Georgia. We're ready. I just got the go ahead. Welcome, everyone, to a little live life check yourself. I'm Marnie Batista. I am the founder of Screw the Should Life and the podcast formerly known as Life Check Yourself, helping women who are sick of grinding but not sick of earning how to figure out how to live a life on their terms, making 10K plus a month. And I have Georgia with me, Georgia Kalhoff. Did I say that right, Georgia?
You did. You nailed it.
Woohoo! Georgia, I'm so glad she's here. When she said, do you want to do a live together? I was like, yes. Why? Because she's a registered nutritionist, personal trainer, and trainee therapist who runs Flourishing Health. And she specializes in food psychology for high achieving midlife women. And I said, oh my gosh, I have so many women that I work with. It's like the burnout and the overworking and the people pleasing and being the good girl, living the busy life almost just goes hand in hand with struggling with food and weight and hormones and nutrition. Her signature question, I know what to do, so why can't I do it? Oh, Lord, yes. Captures the frustration of women who've read every book, tried every approach, and still find themselves stuck in the same patterns with food. Her work sits at the intersection of nutrition science and psychology. She helps women see that the problem is not, hear this, it's not willpower or knowledge. It's not. So listen up. It's that food has become targeted and tangled up with worth, control, and identity in ways that no meal plan can fix. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so good. Her approach changes and challenges diet culture without dismissing your goals, offering what Georgia calls the middle path, supporting women who want to change their relationship with food and their bodies without the chaos. We all want less chaos. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
I would love to hear a little bit about your story. You know, how I always would love to know, like, what was the moment for you where this became your mission and your passion?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I actually started out as an archaeologist. That was my first degree.
I love it.
Totally unrelated. And when I graduated, it was right in that recession around 2008. And I was kind of told, do you know what, if you want to work in archaeology, you're going to have to get your PhD. And I thought, I don't want to be in education any longer. And my real passions, archaeology, unrelated to everything else, but physiotherapy, nutrition, fitness, and health. And I thought, do you know what, I'm going to retrain. So I went back to school anyway and retrained as a personal trainer.
But now I'm really excited about it. That's a good soul alignment.
Yeah, exactly. So I trained as a personal trainer and I got working with women right away. And a lot of them would say to me, you know, I need to kind of work really hard. I binge eat a lot. I emotionally eat. You've got to help me. And I was thinking, well, I can make you fitter and stronger, but this has got nothing to do with how you're eating. So then I was like, okay, great. I need to bring in nutrition so that I can support these women. And then once I was working as a nutritionist, I was thinking to myself, do you know what? Everybody I'm working with, they know that an apple is high fiber and, you know, low calorie. And they know that a deep fried Mars bar isn't going to support their fat loss goals. It's not a thing about, you know, knowledge and understanding. We all know these things. So what is it? And it's the mindset behind it. It's the relationship that we have with food, with our bodies. It's absorbing diet culture from all around us. So then I thought, okay, do you know what? If I actually really want to help these people the way that I needed help when I was younger, I need to go and work on the psychology side of things. So at the moment, I'm in my last year of training as a psychotherapist and counselor, and I'm integrating that with my nutrition science and personal training as well. So it's a very unusual route that I got here, but it felt really natural as I was doing it.
Well, what is really spectacular is that you get it that it is an inside out job, because if we don't, if we don't really understand that, then it's just a struggle. I've really never, I've talked about this a little bit on my podcast, but I've never definitely talked about it on any live, but I had an eating disorder in my 20s. So I was a binge eater and a binge exerciser. And so, and I always used to wish that I could be bulimic or anorexic, but like I was never good at that. So I just was a binge exerciser. That's how I did the off and on thing. And I realized that until I worked on the inside pieces, I wasn't ever going to have that healthy relationship with food or my body. And so this topic is so near and dear to my heart. I'm really curious, like when you hear the phrase "should life," how does that show up in women's relationship with food?
Oh, in so many ways, especially with midlife women and high achieving women, because success is so related to body and food when we think about the media, the skinny woman is always successful and smart and gets the guy, and the larger woman is the sidekick. She's funny, or she's not very clever, and so it's subliminally we associate it with food and success, body and success, our body and worth. I should be thin, I should look young, I should grow old with grace, I should still weigh the same as when I was 18, I should still wear the same jean size. And it very much goes hand in hand with like the perfectionist mindset, that kind of all or nothing. I'm skinny and successful, or I'm not skinny and I'm a failure. And there's no kind of room between those. So lots and lots of shoulds. I say most of my clients, when we first start working together, will say, I know I should, and I really should. And I'm like, okay, should you? Let's work on those shoulds.
Yeah. And I think right now, like I just read this article, Georgia, about how the skinny, you said the word skinny from is like this thing that's coming back because of all the GLP-1s, like this like identity from Twiggy and back in the day. And so I'm curious, like when you think, and I know for so many people, this has just been a life-changing thing to be able to have access to that. I'm curious, how does that culture, the diet culture, now we have the GLP-1 culture, how is that like a mirror of this achievement culture that women are trying to escape? Like what's the mirror, and what can we learn if we're having both of these struggles in our life right now?
Yeah, that is such a big question. And there's so much nuance to it as well, because we've got so many different people with different ideas and opinions. And I'll just kind of say from my opinion from the outset, it's a medication and it's designed to help somebody who needs medication. And, I had cancer last year, and if I didn't have treatment, my options were 100% going to be death. When we're thinking about someone who is struggling with their weight and all the things that come with it, like high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease risk, cancer risk, etc., if there is a medication that can help somebody, absolutely, they are well within their rights to take it. And I don't see it as a shortcut, because I know many people are kind of labeling it as like a bit of a cheat, like a lazy way out. And I don't agree with that. I think people who are at the place where they want to use that for their health have struggled for a long time. And I think it's amazing that it exists. In terms of how that's kind of showing up in society and diet culture and being reflected, again, there are some people who don't need to use this, that are already kind of within the healthy or like normal weight range, or even, underneath that kind of threshold, but they're still using these to achieve and attain a very skinny body, because again, it feels like success, it feels like control, it feels like achievement. And then we do kind of have that pushback where people really want to sort of feel like they're achieving more if they don't have the medication. And there's almost a little bit of resentment in there of like, I want to do it without medication. So I'm kind of seeing a lot of different emotions about it. And it does feel like quite an emotional medication. No one would really argue with, chemo for cancer or surgery for a broken leg. But when it comes to this, because exactly that weight and bodies seem so emotional and such a political thing as well, you know, like controlling women's bodies, that there's a lot of emotion around it. What have you noticed?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I have a lot of clients that have been using it because they've been struggling for years and years and years. And what I notice is it is changing their relationship with food,
Mm.
right? Like because the cravings and all of those things go away. I have a client who grew up pretty uh, in some poverty, and so when she became a really successful lawyer and she had all of the expense paid dinners, she had this thing of like, it's like free. I need to eat everything, and it was like almost
Mhm.
impossible for her to not. And so being on this is like changed her. She's seeing that that was actually a thought that was changeable just because it went away.
Mhm.
She's also really scared of like when she tapers off of it soon, what's going to happen. Right. So I think it's a both things are true. So really being able to look at like what was the origin story of that pattern, and can I now change it so that I can taper off of it and I can have a healthy relationship when I'm not using this anymore. And that goes to my next question, because this person is very, very
Yeah.
successful. I can run teams, I can lead companies, I'm at the top of my career. Why can't I handle dinner? So, what's happening there? Tell everyone what's going on in your mind when you get that flood of emotions and you can't, you're just eating, crackers and cheese instead of like making yourself dinner, or you go to that work dinner and you're numbing out with food and alcohol. Can you talk about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, it's another one of those questions that we could talk for hours on it, because it's not kind of one answer to it. But if we're thinking along the terms of emotional eating, it's serving a purpose, and it is exactly as you said, either to numb, so we haven't got to open the box with those emotions. It's to push through something. It's to perhaps soothe ourselves if we are experiencing that emotion and we just think this is too much. So for example, do you know, if you're feeling sad, if you watch a movie and people are sad on a movie, they're eating ice cream, right? They're never like, oh, let's go out for broccoli, and the friends are sitting there sharing broccoli
Right.
together. Yeah, it's always ice cream or chocolate, things that are nice, they taste nice, they're rewarding to the brain. It gives us that kind of uplift, even if we know afterwards we might feel a bit sick if we've eaten too much, or we might feel guilty if it doesn't match how we would like to be eating. It serves that purpose of suppressing emotions, or at least giving us a way to cope with experiencing them. So if you're, a high achieving woman and you're stressed out all day, chances are you may not have eaten properly. You might have skipped meals. You might have been stuck in a meeting at lunch. You might be trying to eat well in front of other people because, again, you feel like you're judged, and it's about observing yourself from other people's perspective and making sure that you're kind of, eating right. And then feeling really hungry when you get home, or maybe even feeling like, oh, I really deserve this. It was a tough day, or I was so good today. There are so many reasons that we can lean on food.
I've had all of those thoughts. I had someone say to me like a few weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago. I have two questions, but this one, I just want to make comment. I'm 59. I realized I had an eating disorder when I was like 23. So I've been like on this journey for a really long time. And I feel like I finally have a really healthy relationship with food. That being
Amazing.
said, one of my friends said to me, I watch you. You never eat all your food. I'm watching what you're eating. And I was like, what? You're watching what I'm eating? And I think that speaks to what you were talking about, is like, like, oh, and I'm not this person, but like, I'm going to eat this here and I'm noticing what everyone else is ordering at the restaurant. So I'll order this, but then I'll go home because I have like some cookies or whatever it is. So when a woman notices like she's in that familiar food spiral, or she's having those thoughts, what's the first thing you suggest that she do, rather than just trying to like, willpower or should through the moment?
Yeah, because we can't just say, oh, just don't be like this. It just doesn't work like that. there are lots of kind of ways that we can interrupt the thought. I think the first thing is recognizing that a thought is just a thought. So just because we think something, it doesn't mean it's a fact. We don't have to give it time and
Right.
attention. Even if it's damaging, even if we find like, it comes up all the time, it's still going to be there. And I guess an example of this, similarly to you, sorry, my kitten is joining the live. Hi, Peaches. So I had an eating disorder that started from the age of 10 and kind of well into my 20s. And it was really only in my 30s that I fully worked through it. But I would say those thoughts still come up from time to time. There's still a little in the background. But the difference is now I don't act on it. I've got this distance between me, the person, the human that can kind of hear and see the thoughts, and then the thoughts that kind of, I have thousands of unhelpful, useless thoughts every day. If I paid attention to all of them,
Right.
my God, would I be? Yeah. So
they can go in the thought bank of like, unused thoughts.
So many, so useless. So it's kind of having that skill of, right, okay, the thoughts are going to be there because I've grown up how I've grown up. I've experienced what I've experienced. I've been in this, diet culture of the West where it's a big kind of focus on body and food. So they're probably still going to keep cropping up, and it's how do I deal with it when it comes up? And a simple way of breaking a spiral I love is just stop, name, and redirect. So this is like 3 steps. You don't need to write anything. You just, when you catch the thought, you just stop for a second, and then we name it. So we can name it judgment, or we can name it observing. If, okay, I notice I'm watching somebody else and kind of comparing myself. Or we can just say, oh, it's a thought, it's a food thought, whatever makes sense to you. And then we redirect. So the power of redirecting is that we're not trying to argue with it or negotiate. We're not denying that it's there or trying to pretend it's something else. We just choose to do something else. So it's like, you notice a fly buzzing and you're like, okay, there's the fly. I'm going to carry on, typing my email up. The same with the thought. It's like, okay, I hear you. I recognize what you are. I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. And that might be finishing when you feel comfortably full rather than eating the rest of your plate because your friend is watching. Or alternatively, it might be finishing what you're eating because actually you realize you're hungry for it and you don't care that somebody's watching and you don't feel pressured to eat food on your plate,
Yeah, I think it's about even like, for me, recognizing like when I'm actually hungry and when I'm full, right? And like, how do we learn what that feels like? And I think this is really important because it's this difference between physical hunger and something else. How do we tell the difference between physical hunger and that emotional need? I've had times where, and I don't know if since you also are an eating disorder recovery sister, like I've had moments where I've been like, I'm really agitated. I know that I just want to eat something crunchy. Like I can just feel like I need like some tortilla chip or a popcorn, something like whatever. And I make the choice. Then I have to go, okay, I did that. Now I'm just like, you can get into that thing where you're just doing it, but you're off in another planet, right? So how do we know the difference between like, okay, it is okay to have like a little moment because I'm aware of it and making a choice, or I'm actually hungry and something else. How do we do that without turning it into another rule?
Yeah. You're full of amazing questions. I'm loving this. So I think the first thing is, what you said was great. What you did was you recognized the emotion and then you made a mindful, conscious choice to say, I'm frustrated, crunchy food, like is going to feel good.
Yeah.
And you gave yourself
Give me
that,
some salt, baby.
Yeah, something crunchy. I would say if we were going to kind of build a bit of a system to support long-term, it's going to sound the opposite of what you need, but the first thing is making sure that we're always eating relatively regularly, at least a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so that physical hunger is taken care of. Because if we're hungry and emotional, then once we start emotionally eating, it's really hard to stop because we're also starving. So kind of taking care of physical hunger, really helpful. getting used to the emotions that come up for you that ask for food as well, because maybe not every emotion asks you for food. You might have some that you cope with, some that you've got a different kind of coping tool for, and then some where you're like, I really want some food. For me, I get like a tension in the evening sometimes where I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to bed yet, but I want to do something. And I'm like literally squeezing my hands, like, I just want to go to the shop and buy chocolate. And I can imagine myself going and eating this whole bag of chocolate, but I'm fine without it because I'm not actually hungry. So knowing the difference between how hunger shows up as well is helpful. And again, it's a skill. So if you don't have that skill, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just a bit disconnected, and lots of dieting and focusing on body and food will do that. We just have to reconnect. But in general, physical hunger is like slower to come on. We don't go from fine to suddenly starving. There's kind of a bit of a build up. You might feel a bit tired or a bit kind of thinking about food. Your stomach might growl. You might just feel a bit empty and think, I'm low on energy, like I could do with eating something. If it's emotional, normally it's pretty sudden. And like you said, it's food. So if you're feeling angry and you can't have tortilla chips, and I'm like, oh, but I made spaghetti bolognese, you'll be like, not interested.
Ew.
It has to be crunchy. Yeah, that's how you know. It's definitely an emotional thing. For me, when I'm craving chocolate and I'm like, oh, if you came in and you said, oh, I've made you a Caesar salad, again, my face is like, that is not going to, like, it's a craving. That is not going to touch this. So it's kind of noticing the subtle signs. And part of that also comes with recognizing your emotions, which, again, if you are a high achieving woman who knows that she should have her anger under control, who should smile, who should be nice, who should be everything that a woman needs to be in business, which is very different to actually being yourself a lot of the time, then you might be very used to masking or just kind of blocking out your emotions when you're annoyed with somebody at work, rather than saying, okay, that's not acceptable. We need to talk this through. Let's go for it, which a man can say. And, you know, he's direct and he's assertive. If a woman says that, she's aggressive, she's got an attitude. So we might learn to change how we display our emotions and actually not always fully connect to them as well. So you might not always realize that it's emotional eating until you're kind of at the bottom of that bag of tortilla chips where you're like, oh, I'm not angry anymore, you know?
Yeah, but then I'm angry at myself, right? That was my whole thing, right? I used to be angry, and then you cross that line and then you displace the anger or whatever it was. You don't deal with whatever's going on. And I would just, like, it's very familiar to beat myself up about food. That's a familiar pain. I'll just stay here, right? Like, I don't want to deal with actually what's going on, but I'm very good at beating myself up. And so breaking that cycle is so powerful. I'm so glad that you are a person who does fitness, nutrition, and your mind. Because we're talking about it, and if you're listening, and also, woohoo, we're getting so many people on Substack, YouTube, welcome, Instagram. Hey, tell your friends. We need some more ladies on here, because this is not as easy as, just, like order your meal boxes or meal prep on Sunday. So I hope that everyone is having a little self-compassion and understanding that this is something deeper, which is my cue. We're not done yet though, but I want to have, Imran is helping us online. If you could just make sure you get Georgia's Substack and my Substack, of course, in the comments, so that y'all can follow Georgia and start really getting into all of these different pieces, because I think the key, I know in my own recovery, was handling, all of these sorts of things. So make sure that you all subscribe right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, heck yeah. Okay, I have another question for you. Because this is huge. This happened to me for sure with midlife. I joke that I'm in midlife, even though I'm 59, because I just feel like I'm in midlife.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope to live to be 100 and whatever, but there's the whole conversation that's going on right now about perimenopause and belly fat and, hormones and all of those sorts of things. And I was wondering, like, what is your philosophy on this? Because my should was I should be able to figure this out without being on hormones. I'm just going to take supplements. It'll go away soon. Like, I just need to, my pattern is I'll exercise more, right? It comes back. So what are you seeing out there that women are really struggling with? And what's a way you can take a pause and work with your nervous system to actually sort this out in a way that's right for you and your individual situation?
Yeah, and it's a really complicated question and answer because everybody has different symptoms. Everyone experiences different mixtures for symptoms and maybe, how long their symptoms last for as well. So it's not doom and gloom for everyone. Some people have very light symptoms. They don't notice a huge amount. It's kind of doesn't last too long. They might not want to do anything. They might not have many symptoms, but still decide that actually HRT gives a lot of benefits for longevity, for bone health, muscle health, cognitive health, cardiovascular health, and still choose to use HRT, which is completely fine. Other people might have a lot of symptoms, but not want to use HRT, or they may not be able to if they've had breast cancer or breast cancer in the family, for example. But there are lots of ways of dealing with different symptoms. So if you've got, if we're allowed to say vaginal symptoms like dryness, pain.
Yeah. We can say it all.
We can? Okay, good. I have many filters really. So yeah, like things like vaginal estrogen, where it's not systemic, can be really helpful for things like pelvic floor health, urinary incontinence, even kind of, sexual pain. That can be very helpful as well to have. Estrogen lubricants, a really good lubricant as well. And then if we're thinking about things like hot flushes, again, HRT can be helpful, but also things like CBT and breath work can be very helpful. And I know it sounds so woo-woo when you're like dripping with sweat when it's snowing outside. I don't want to go on here and do breath work, but it's really about regulating the nervous system and helping everything that's kind of firing come back down. Because I think what we forget or gets brushed over sometimes is that like menopause is a full system transition. It's not just periods and hot flushes and a bit less muscle or some more fat around your stomach. It's everything. It is your nervous system. It is your bones, your muscles, your insulin resistance. Like you name a body part and it's going to be affected during menopause. So it's really finding.
And that's good news. Woohoo!
It is, because you're kind of, I don't think it's like a rewiring, it's kind of, you get to that.
It really,
no more shoulds,
Yeah, no, it really, it's, I love that I've never literally thought about this. It really is like, if you think about midlife reinvention, right? And really deciding that you want to write this new chapter and you want to be the best version of yourself. Why are we so mad at our bodies for also like, needing to be, rewired to run differently, right? It's almost like you're like, why does this car that I've had for 45 years why do I need a new car? Why do I need to look at it in a different way? So if we can I think what I'm hearing you say is if we could have a different relationship to the fact that our body is changing and be curious about it and kind of look at each symptom very separately and very personally and not compare, then we're just we're just designing our new car, right, for that next chapter. So I think that's huge.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's the relationship with menopause, like you said, because in some places, Australian Aboriginals, menopausal women or postmenopausal women are seen as the wisest of the wise. They are revered as kind of leaders. And when we're thinking about menopause as a transition, it's like puberty takes a long time, right? Puberty can start from kind of 9, 10, 11 for some people, carry on throughout teens into 20s for other people. It's not an easy time. There are lots of physical changes. You're growing something, or something's sore, or something's oozy, or something's spotty. And my goodness, when I was a teenager, I was a real pain in the ass. Like my mood swings, 1 minute crying, inconsolable. My mum tries to ask me what's wrong. The next minute I am raging. Like, how dare you ask me? I'm fine now. I'm through well through puberty. But it's like we kind of forget to have that same compassion that menopause has these
Yes.
fluctuations, and we have those same kind of symptoms from mood to body changes to, you know, menorrhage to all of these things. So I think it's just finding what's happening for you, what feels good to you, like not what people say you should or shouldn't do, and having a really good conversation with your doctor, with your healthcare team to kind of find what you want to do.
Oh, so powerful, right? Because then you're not shitting yourself, right? You're actually making choices that are right for you. I have another question because for me, this was a big thing too. Was this idea of like autopilot and triggers that makes us want to eat. And I want to just talk about how we can stop these because I've had clients say like, if I go past a Starbucks at the airport, like I have to get a blah blah blah. I remember when I first moved to Colorado the first year, I would go skiing. It was all like, you know, snowy and beautiful, and I would sit down on the TV at night and my brain just said like graham crackers and milk, you know? And I was like, it was like I sat on the couch and the couch became graham crackers and milk. Or I need to have hot chocolate when I go to this one place, or I need to eat this when I go to the sporting event. How do we start to, when we have these experiences that trigger food cravings, what's a tip or technique that we can do so that we can still enjoy those moments and feel celebratory or like I'm on a vacation or whatever it is that that moment is meaning without having to use food that's not serving our goals?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, super common. So, you know, it happens to most people. I'd say all of us in some way, if we think about it, even if it's just association of, I go to the cinema, when I watch a movie, I get popcorn and, you know, I get chocolate and I get a drink. We can go to the movie without any of those things, but it might be part of the experience for us. So I think
Right.
a couple of things there, like one is, oh, kitten's gone. One is not pathologizing that, because we're allowed to enjoy food. It's supposed to be delicious. It's supposed to be fun. Even if we have, you know, very specific goals, there is always room for every kind of food in our overall diet. But when we're thinking about the other extreme where like it's happening all the time, and like you said, if I go past this, I have to go in and get like, you know, my frappuccino with the cream and everything on it, then we need to think about, what is that experience for me? Like what's it actually doing for me? I had a client who very jealous because she lives in the US and she would have lemon Oreos, and we don't get lemon Oreos here. So
I've never seen lemon Oreos, but I'll have to look for them.
oh yeah. I think about it now, and we finished working together like 2 years ago. I'm still just like, I really want them.
If I come to the UK and meet you, I know what to bring you.
Yeah, please do. Oh my goodness. But yeah, she associated, you know, when she finished work, she would sit on the couch, she would have lemon Oreos, she would eat her dinner, and then she would always have a dessert. And for her, it was part of that exhale. It was part of that working day has ended, my time has begun, and food kind of got associated with that. But again, it wasn't salad. There's no comfort in a salad bowl, is there? It was like, you know,
and I want to watch broccoli. No.
Yeah, that's it. So it's thinking about, okay, how else can I create that feeling that I'm associating with this? So for her, what we kind of figured out was that what she was really looking for was a way to decompress and take her brain away from work so she could transition into home time and be fully present. But what she was finding is that she wasn't present. She was mindlessly eating, and she never felt settled afterwards because she was like, oh, now I've eaten food and I feel uncomfortable. So after a long process of kind of figuring out what is this transition that you want, she actually started a puzzle table, and she had her big puzzle board out, and every night after work when she got home, the dogs would go out in the garden and she would just give herself 15 minutes with a cup of tea and doing some puzzle. And then she was decompressing during that. And afterwards, she could sit on the sofa and just feel present. She could, you know, watch TV, she could go and cook dinner, and it didn't feel like she was still sort of in that work mode. So for her, it looked like emotional eating, but what it actually was kind of the come down, the decompression after the stress, so she could then be at home. So I guess we want to think about, what is it that we get from this? So for you, the graham crackers and milk, like, was it a relaxation thing? Was it just something to look forward
Yeah.
to at the end of the evening? Like, what it was
All
serving
those
for you?
things. Yeah, it was like, I don't know, it was just like cozy and lovely and tasty. Also, I think you said something really interesting, is that when my kids were little, and living at home, there was like the dessert moment as a mom. It was like, what does everyone want to have for dessert, right? And yes, I would put out fruit, but people, they were, young. They're like, I want a cookie, I wanted this, and it was a long time ago, and there were less healthy dessert choices for sure. But and my husband is a full-on chocoholic, sweet addict, right? So I think he would eat like literal candy or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna have this thing. So I think it was like wanting to belong, wanting to be part of the moment, wanting to like cap off the meal. And it was relaxing. So, but I just had to realize that the couch is not I felt like I would sit on the couch and the couch was a graham cracker. So, and it's funny, I just went in my pantry and I have this box of graham crackers. It's probably literally almost a year and a half. I mean, I just had to make a choice to not do that and do some work on myself. So I still have a full box. It's probably expired. So it was, when you asked me that question, it's really helpful. I can think about all the different things that it meant.
Yeah. And that's it. I think, when we're thinking about approaching this with self-compassion, it's not judgment of like, oh, why am I doing this? This is so stupid. It's, oh, okay, interesting. Why do I do it? Because it serves a purpose. We don't do things for no reason. We don't just decide to, go and binge eat a bag of chocolate. There's a reason we do it. And sometimes just knowing what purpose it serves means that we then get to go, okay, interesting. If it's about being cozy and fitting in, can I have a hot chocolate, sit on the sofa? Can I light a candle, put my favorite blanket around me and feel just as cozy and connected to everybody? Or actually, is that food going to be part of it? But I'm going to make that choice that it's really intentional rather than accidental. Or if I really just want to have half a cookie with my kids, can I work on allowing myself to have half a cookie with the kids,
Yeah, right now, like, I've been playing mahjong with my friends almost every week, and it's turned into this, like, everyone is such a good cook, and everyone wants to bring dessert treats. And for a while, I was like, oh, I need to not eat those dessert treats on Wednesday night, right? Like, that's a bad habit. And then I was like, wait, if I just like have a few bites of everybody's amazing stuff, like, that is good, because I do want to have pleasure from food and not get, and the shoulds, they're really sneaky, we can like, we forget that we have all these choices and that food isn't bad. Headline. So as we wrap up, if you were going to tell women how changing the relationship with food supports their bigger reinvention, not just their body, but really like allows them to support like them being more of who they are, their soul's journey here. How can food be part of that as we kind of end here?
Yeah. Oh, I love that you said soul's journey. That's so, yeah, it's so much deeper than just, appearance. I would say when we have a good relationship with food, we actually get to just exist as who we are without focusing always on how every bite may or may not impact our body. And when we get rid of that food noise and we free up the headspace, I wrote an article about this a few weeks ago where I calculated like how much time I'd spent focusing on, food and body, and it, half an hour a day, it was something like 700 to 1,000 hours a year. Like, what can you do with that time? One, you've just got 1,000 hours of like peace and just nothing. You don't have to do anything with it. Or you can spend that on something creative, whether that's your business, whether it's just for pleasure, whether it's connection with people. You can do so much with that headspace. So if we're thinking beyond just food, you can have a healthy relationship with food, and you can choose not to diet, or you can choose to diet for whatever reason, as long as it feels, aligned with your values. But you get this headspace back where instead of spending, all this time thinking about what am I going to have for breakfast? Should I have all of it? Should I save half? Should I put half in the bin so I can have some cookies tonight? you actually just get to kind of live your life and eat like a, you know, a normal person, like we did when we were kids, and not overthink it and move on and free ourselves from guilt and shame and anxiety and fear, and actually just show up and really live fully. It can be incredible.
Wow. Yeah, it really is. You know, it's funny when in 2020, after I had a traumatic ski accident, and if you can imagine this person who has always been very active and in an unhealthy and healthy way, and then I could do nothing. And I really had what it was part of my reinvention, was realizing that what I really want my body to do is to support my soul, like living the life that I want, being active, enjoying nature, being able to explore, you know, all of those things. I was like, I just want my body to be able to be the container that does those things. So how do I take care of it? And it completely just changed um how I wanted to really design that next chapter in midlife and really simplify my life. And so when you say you simplify your life by getting rid of 1,000 hours or 10,000 or 100,000 hours of negative thinking, that does give you the space to actually start living and start doing all of the things that really create meaning in your life. Oh, so amazing. I'm so glad that you wanted to do this. This has been so fun. Definitely, if you're listening and you're like on YouTube or you're on Instagram, come over to Substack. It's such a fun, great place to be. No dancing, no silly. We're not as creative as Instagram and YouTube and visually, but our articles and our content is amazing. And less intrusive. So come on over. So Substack, you can subscribe to Georgia. Do you know your Substack link? I know we'll put it in the chat as well.
Georgia.flourishinghealth.
Love it. Okay. And mine is marnie.batista@substack.com. Come on over, join us. You definitely want to follow Georgia, follow me, or subscribe, I guess is the right word. Substack, subscribe. We don't
Come
care.
and read.
We love followers, but we just mostly want subscribers. And by the way, if you have any other questions for Georgia, or me, make sure that you send us a DM or a message. What's the best way that people can send you a message or get in touch with you, Georgia, other than your Substack?
Yeah, Instagram. You can DM me on Instagram. I'm not as active, but I will come back to you. Or you can always email me, which is very old-fashioned, but I like an old-fashioned.
I do too.
Yeah, you don't have to write me a letter, but you can email me. I love that. And that's Georgia@Flourishing Health. It's very easy to remember. It's just my name and Flourishing Health on everything.
I love it. Awesome. So if you have more questions, we can come back, do more lives, be here for you to support you in your reinvention. But remember, always and in all ways, it's your responsibility to life check yourself. See you next time, and screw the should life. It's much more fun. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.